I remember back in the day, one of my partners saying to me, "You're never happy." And at that time, I was so disempowered. I wasn't connected to my true self, and I believed them. So I thought, well, gosh, I better not speak up anymore about how I'm feeling or what I want changed because it just means I'm not happy. And being the beautiful little people pleaser I was at that time, I wanted to make them happy. So I dimmed my light. I got quiet. I tried not to speak up about things. But the only thing that happened was that bitterness and resentment started to build in that relationship, and it eventually ended. And that failed relationship, among others, are the reason why that I set course to figure out why the heck this kept happening to me. And I learned a lot on this journey. And one of the things that I have learned is why people say those things. Because they were things that used to hold me down. They used to stop me. They used to make me feel like there was something wrong with me, that I was the person that was doing the unhealthy thing in the relationship. But I've since learned that none of that was true, that I was right on point and right on par with the things that I was talking about. I will say maybe back in the day, my delivery wasn't as great as it is now. I've learned a lot since then. But when I started to realize that the things that I was requesting and speaking up for, and these harsh statements that were coming back at me, they were really just designed to shut me up, to keep me small. And this is one of the main points that I want you to understand here, is that at first when we're a little wobbly in our self-worth and we're so desperate or wanting somebody to love us or to approve of us or maybe even just like us, that we'll be willing to shut our mouths and zip our lips and try to change who we are so that we can get the approval of this person. And I'm just not there anymore. I realized the things that I was bringing up because I was on a growth journey. I was wanting improvement in certain areas of my life because the way I was being treated and the things that were going on weren't okay. But like I said, at first, I believed them and I played small and I shut my mouth. It never felt right. It just never felt right inside. And I remember things just building up inside of me until they didn't come out so pretty. So today I want to go through a list of the things that these people can say to us to try to make us play small, because there's something going on within them that is promoting them to say these things to us. So let's say somebody says to you, "You're too much. You're just too much." What they're really saying, the motive behind this, is I want you to shrink so that I don't have to grow. Because anytime we are out there in the world and we're talking about the things that aren't working in relationships, we're talking about the places that we're being disrespected, we're talking about our feelings regarding that other person, if they're not someone who is on the healing journey themselves, and they have done a whole lot of distracting in their life, and or they've never had anybody call them out, so to speak, they're going to want to make you play small. They're going to want to try to shut you down. And so they're going to say things like, "You're too much," because they want you to feel bad. And oftentimes we do, especially if we are people pleasers or recovering people pleasers. Our main goal is to try to make other people happy. So if that comes at us, we're going to immediately think there's something wrong with me. Let me shift, let me change, let me try to avoid this so that I can keep the peace. But what's happening is you're truly just giving away your personal power. You're abandoning the self to try to make somebody else feel comfortable. And that is never serving in relationships. So let's say they say something to you like, "You're so dramatic." What does this mean? What they're really saying is, your feelings are making me uncomfortable, and I don't have the emotional maturity to meet you at this. These feelings and emotions are something that I typically avoid. So once again, I'm going to try to shut you up. I'm going to try to shut you down so that you don't make me access something that makes me highly uncomfortable. Now, this is typically true in a lot of males because our males haven't been taught to cultivate their emotional intelligence and to become emotionally mature, just based on society and a whole bunch of other things that I've talked about in other videos. But it's prevalent in women as well. So you may have women saying this to you too, because sometimes it is the man that is emotionally mature who has attracted an emotionally immature woman. So she or he does not want to hold space for you because what you're dealing with just makes them highly uncomfortable. It makes them squirm, and sometimes it can even scare them. And this is a point that I really want to drive home, is that fear factor, because a lot of times people don't realize that we can scare people by just being ourselves. I remember once that I had a friend that said that to me. She was a new friend. She was a neighbor on my block way back when, 3 houses ago, when my kids were small. And I remember she was new to the neighborhood. So I went over and I knocked on her door and I was like, hey, I'm Kristen. I live right there. You know, if you need anything, this and that, where you're from, etc., etc. Years later, she said to me, you scared me when you came to my door. And I thought, isn't that strange? I was quite young at the time, maybe early 30s, maybe somewhere around there. And I remember thinking, I scared her? Oh boy, what do I need to adjust in myself not to scare her? That was my first go-to, because I had not yet learned that some people have certain things going on within them, or they're not the way you are. So the way you show up to them looks scary. But this is not an invitation to dim your light. This is not an invitation for you to stop being who you are authentically. I'm a very welcoming and friendly person, but I remember thinking, oh gosh, I better not ever be too much of myself with her because I'm going to scare her. So instead of just being myself and letting her get accustomed to who I was and perhaps maybe grow herself, up-level herself in some way, I started playing small around her. Let's say somebody calls you too sensitive. What does that mean? Well, the hidden motive behind that is that you are noticing things that the other person is trying to avoid or ignore. Oh yes, people are really good at repressing feelings, of repressing emotions. So when you talk about things from your heart, from your sensitivity, then that could be highly uncomfortable for somebody, and they want to call you too sensitive to shut you down. It could also mean that they don't want to take accountability for their own actions and behaviors. So they call you sensitive as a means of trying to deflect from the thing that they did so that they can make it your fault. You're too sensitive. You're seeing things that aren't there. You just need to be quiet and go sit over there in the corner because I don't want to look at this. It means they don't want to take responsibility for your pain. They don't want to take responsibility for what they have inflicted upon you, likely because they have pretty much zero self-awareness and they don't self-reflect, they don't go within, but they're also emotionally immature. Your desire for more feels like a threat to my comfort. So their ego's going to kick in and they're going to start coming up with things to try to shut you down. Once again, this doesn't mean that you're doing the wrong thing. And this is why I made this video for you today, because I've been in your exact position more times than I can tell you, where somebody somewhere was trying to shut me down. And I used to bob around trying to change and shift and morph for everybody in my world because I thought I was doing something wrong. Little did I know that this emotional awareness that I had, this verbal acuity that I had, this ability to share my feelings and to be vulnerable was actually a plus. But I was just sharing it with people that didn't appreciate it because they wanted to hide. So anytime we're trying to show up authentically and honestly and real to them, that doesn't feel good because they're so used to being in their comfort zone that you coming in with this, whoop, that's like a scary siren to them because they don't want to go outside of their comfort zone. I remember a relationship where my partner said to me, "You are the first person ever in my life to call me out on my shit." I was the first person. Well, that relationship eventually crashed and burned. But if you think about it, there's people out there who have never taken accountability, who don't know how to empathize with you, who don't know how to see it from your perspective. And truthfully, they don't want to because they're so comfortable in the way that things have been that they don't want to stretch. They don't want to grow. So they're going to try to make you feel small. And the last thing is that I've heard this being said before, and I think, yes, this has been said to me as well, is it's never enough. You always want more. You always want more. And that was quite shocking to me because that was said later in my life. This was after I went through what I call my College of Kristen, my spiritual awakening, if you will, my self-worth awakening, really. And I remember thinking, that's not true because I'm so happy where I'm at with what I have. But what I realized this person was really saying is that I expect you to settle for less and be okay with it. And that's one thing that I was not willing to do anymore. I had settled for less for so long. I had dimmed my light for so long. I had played small. I had shifted and morphed and chameleon to try to fit in with all of these other narratives that people had in their minds. And it was highly uncomfortable. It felt suffocating. I didn't feel like I was expanding. I felt like something was wrong. And then I started to learn what all these things truly meant. And I realized this, the most important thing. Be willing to shine your light. Be willing to be exactly who you are, authentically and real to the world. And what will happen is that you will attract people to you who like that. What if somebody out there in the world is like, I just wish somebody was real. I just wish someone was honest. I just wish somebody would communicate and tell me the truth. And then here you are, and you're like this breath of fresh air that they've wanted for so long. Holding yourself back is only going to attract people to you, please hear me now, that want you to continue to hold yourself back. So if you are someone on the healing journey and you're looking to attract and create healthy relationships, you've got to be willing to step into all that who you are, all that knowledge, all that wisdom, all that capital T truth, and be willing to share that so that the people that aren't in alignment with that will fall away. But the people who are will be attracted to you like bees to flowers. I truly hope you got a lot from this episode today. And if you did, I'd be super pleased if you gave me a big thumbs up like. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. I also want everybody to know that I give a live talk Monday through Friday over on the free Noom Vibe app that has everything to do with reclaiming your personal power, self-love, self-healing, all the things. You can join me over there live Monday through Friday right now during daylight savings time at about 12:45 p.m. Eastern time and about 9:45 a.m. Pacific time. You have the opportunity to come up on the stage and speak to me if you will, and there's other ways that you can interact with the talk. It is the most amazing community, and I look forward to seeing you over there. Also, I recommend you watch this video next, and I'll see you next time, everybody.